I just found out my wife of 9 years slept with all of her friends' husbands, student and owner of the music school she worked with. I suspect this may become rather long as this story has many meandering turns from start to finish. I don't expect anyone to read it, let alone all of it, but maybe I can find a bit of catharsis in getting it out. I, 34 male, found out that my now ex, 35 female, were together for 9 years when I found out she had been cheating on me. Looking back, I missed a lot of red flags. People will believe a lie because they want it to be true or they are afraid it might be true. My situation was the former. I suppose to properly explain this I will have to describe her friend group at the time. One of her close friends, Tanya, I'll be changing names for anonymity, was the loud jealous type. She had a way of ordering people around coupled with an odd mixture of a superiority complex, self-esteem, and control issues. Her boyfriend was Robert, who was an extrovert, and typically well liked. My ex, Jill, was also close with Katie and Sam. Katie and Sam were in a long-term relationship and Jill ended up being Katie's maid of honor at her wedding. Not long after the wedding between Katie and Sam, and about 2 years into my relationship with Jill, Tanya got it in her head that Jill was sleeping with Robert. Now Robert had a thing for Jill, it was an open secret as it were. Jill was very close to Robert, but would also tell me everything that was going on. As an example, Robert got her flowers for her birthday, Jill told me. I expressed I was made uncomfortable by this and Jill said she'd tell Robert to avoid doing it again in the future. That openness had me convinced it was a one-way attraction, and when Tanya began making her accusations I figured Tanya was letting her worries get the better of her again. She had a habit of thinking everyone was against her at times, and more often than not she was seeing things in a situation that weren't there. When Jill found out she called me in a panic, promised me that none of it was true, that she wanted to be with me, etc. Tanya insisted on seeing both myself and Jill to say her piece. I agreed to meet, though Jill, not good with confrontation, was rather scared. I assured her everything would be okay and that I would go alone and let her know what happened. I told Jill I didn't believe what was being said, asked her not to worry, and promised her we'd get through things. Making the claims even more unlikely to me was that Jill was under a lot of stress at this time, finishing her master's degree, and her SES drive had sharply declined. Tanya's revelations were largely conjecture. She mentioned Robert getting her flowers, some time they spent together, which I already knew about. They often went to concerts together, more than once I drove her to and from. After she finished I took a walk with Robert and we talked for a while. I asked if there was anything to what Tanya was saying. He assured me there wasn't. And without evidence and where the accusations were coming from I didn't believe them. Over the coming weeks Tanya forwarded me 2 pictures of Jill that were inappropriate for anyone else to have. But Jill said they were taken from an ex and she had no idea how Tanya had gotten them. If they did come from Robert, then Robert must have sent them to himself from Jill's phone. This didn't sit quite well with me as Jill seldom lets her phone out of her sight, but every accusation had a very reasonable counter, and given the quiet, conflict-averse, supportive, caring, and emotional Jill, the reasonable counter, the source of the accusation, and lack of proof made me believe Jill. I spent the period of time defending Jill as needed. We met up with Sam and Katie, who assured us they believed Jill and thought Tanya was being crazy, in an attempt to see where they'd be landing after the inevitable split between Tanya and Jill. They said they were closer with Jill and if push came to shove they would stay with her. It wasn't long after that things did split and I never saw Tanya, Robert, Sam, or Katie again. I wasn't overly closer with them, and being newlyweds I figured they wanted to keep away from the drama as much as possible. Jill moved on from this, and to fill up the time she now has she began volunteering at a music studio, then school. The meeting was happenstance, and when she hit it off with a studio owner she took the opportunity to get exposure to that side of the industry. This became a larger part of her life over the years, and so as not to get too bogged down in the details, there was a split at the studio between partners and she landed with one of them. She ended up spending a lot of time there, a few times a week, and was putting a lot of effort into it as she was promised a stake in the business. I disliked how this was cutting into our time and that she was on her phone a lot more now even when we were together, but I was happy she was doing something she loved. I voiced what concerns I had and she made efforts to improve things. I heard stories about the owner of the music school, students she met, some that came to her with problems. Again, she was very open about everything. The owner of the music school, Kyle, was former military and had PTSD, so she made a special effort to be there for him when she needed him. While we were on a mini vacation, I was anonymously emailed some pictures of Jill and Kyle at a beach. Of course I knew they had gone as I had been told, but the few pictures I was sent had them closer than I was comfortable with. He was laying on his back between her legs with his head on her lower stomach. I confronted her and she assured me nothing was going on, that I knew she and Kyle had gone to the beach and that they were just pictures. She apologized and said she didn't at the time see the interaction as at all inappropriate, but could see why I would think that and view it in that way. After that incident I was more concerned than I had been before, but again this seemed very out of character. She had explanations that fit her character a lot better, and I thought I was being paranoid. We had been together over 7 years at this point, and though her says drive never seemed to have returned, I believed her. She did distance herself from Kyle after this and made more of an effort when we were together to not let the music school intrude on our time. Introducing Newscaster Vocalizer is a new first-of-its-kind, groundbreaking app, which allows you to generate full-featured voiceovers from any text using direct access to Amazon-powered Newscaster Vocalizer without spending thousands of dollars. Just select a language and voice, paste your text, click a button, and it's done. Now that the background is out of the way, the tumbling house of cards might be a little better appreciated. I work a lot. More so as Jill began spending more time at the music school. One day when we were together I asked to borrow her laptop as mine had run out of power and I had to go over some PDFs that were sent to me. She gave me her laptop and went to take a nap. She often takes naps. For a long time I'd enjoy laying next to her and holding her as she did. It would bother me though how she would stay out so late when spending time with others. But when it was me, more reasonable hours were the norm. I think it was largely because I spent time with her days after she was out late. I was the recovery day. In any event, I did the work I needed to and deleted the PDFs I downloaded, then went to empty her laptop's trash can so as not to clutter anything up. While in the trash can I noticed some rather explicit pictures of her that I had never seen before. Something to note about Jill is that she takes a lot of screenshots of things she likes, chat messages, things online, and she backs up her phone to her laptop every Sunday. I had always been big on her having her privacy, and while I knew the access code to her phone I never went through it, and I always went out of my way to not see what was being sent to her out of respect. Needless to say that when I made the decision to look into the pictures she had backed up to her laptop, I was preparing myself to cross a line I never wanted to cross, and expected I'd be apologizing to her when she woke up for looking through her laptop when she gave it to me for work. What I saw had me feeling completely hollowed out. There were convenient explanations, no doubt, that could be exploited this time. There were pictures she had taken of her and one of the students at the music school, Chris, not a grade school mind you, so students could be any age. This guy was in his early 20s I believe, kissing. Others of them with no clothes together. Apple arranges everything into files based on months and years, so I was able to see when this had happened. I felt my stomach nodding, but I had checked what I could. I looked back to years before and saw some suspicious messages she had taken a screenshot of between her or Robert. I knew I wouldn't be able to process everything there and then, so to my shame, I started copying the files over to an external hard drive. The computer had copied about half of them when I stopped. Jill woke up and saw me on the couch. I sat there without saying anything, empty one moment, depressed the next. She asked what was wrong and I couldn't find the words. What I did end up saying I can't recall, something along the lines of the pictures of you and Chris. I know you're cheating on me. After that I left. She texted as I drove home, but I largely ignored it. The following day I began reading through some of the screenshots I saved. I saw things that were definitive about her and Robert. I defended her while she had been cheating on me. I didn't go much further. We texted over the next few days and I asked her to tell me what she had done. I asked specific questions. I asked if she had cheated on me with Robert. She lied to me and said no. I asked her if she was sure and she said yes, she had never cheated with him. I told her I knew she was lying and recounted one of the more graphic texts he had sent describing something from one of encounters. When I asked why she lied, she said because she was embarrassed about it. Early on I never questioned things in regards to Robert, but later, before everything blew up, I asked her if she had cheated. I told her that if she did, came clean about it, and promised it wouldn't happen again, there'd be no fallout. I just wanted honesty. She assured me nothing happened. That conversation rattled around in my brain as we were texting and I reminded her. It enraged me being lied to over and over, especially when I gave her an easy out previously. We stopped talking for a while. Eventually her dad reached out to check on me. We had lunch a few times, and Jill rarely came up. He did say she was hurting, but he didn't try to pressure me into anything, which I really appreciated. Eventually I did meet up with Jill again. I had made her part of a company I had started and I needed to get her to sign some paperwork to remove her from it. During that meeting she apologized and cried. I asked more questions. I asked if she had cheated with Kyle. She said no, but they had kissed a bit. She asked repeatedly if we could still be friends, if there was anything she could do. I told her I didn't think so. After our meeting I went home and started actually looking through the files I saved in depth. Not surprisingly she had lied to me about Kyle as well. She had slept with him. I confronted her and explained I copied what I did and told her that I'd delete everything once I no longer cared, but for now I needed that. I needed to be able to see what she had done and what she had said so I wouldn't gloss over it. I was worried I could easily slip into trying to work things out if I didn't have that easy reminder of the degree to which things happened. Turns out she was also in the process of cheating with Sam. She had sent him pictures, they were making plans. He had even sent her a message in regards to his wedding stating that no matter what rings are exchanged or promises are made, you're still my girl. She had been Katie's maid of honor and she was going behind her back with Sam. I really didn't know Jill like I thought I did. Part of me wants to tell Katie, despite the fact that it has been years, but I don't have her number anymore, couldn't find her on Facebook. I think she deserves to know what her husband was doing, or am I just being destructive and cruel? I don't know. I don't want to ruin things for her, as she was always kind to me. Eventually she admitted that she was cheating on me within months of us getting together. She had been cheating with Robert before she and I got together, or I should say Robert was cheating to be with her as she was single. But she was cheating with Robert and Sam at the same time. Later cheated with Kyle and Chris, and Ryan from the same school. For a time I almost forgot about him. Our 9 years together and she was cheating for most of it. Everyone who found out was shocked. Again, she was the last person you'd expect to do something like this. When she was finally seemingly being honest with me, though I can never know, she said it was the validation. It was a craving. She claims the says really wasn't the draw and didn't matter, but the validation she was getting was irresistible. She still reaches out and wants to be friends. There's quite a bit more I could write, but this has already become absurdly long. Wow, Jill is a scumbag of a human being. Try looking up Katie on LinkedIn. If you don't find her, try looking up old friends of hers on social media and tell them you want to catch up with Katie for old time's sake, so you need her number. You wouldn't be petty, you'll be opening her eyes to the person she married. Sam was cheating with Jill before he got married, and I'm sure during the marriage, and helping Jill gaslight the group when Tanya came to you guys with her gut feelings. Also, might I add, poor Tanya to have everyone call you crazy and jealous when you know in your heart that Jill is a scumbag. I hope you reach out to her and give her some relief that her gut instincts were right on the money. Besides yourself, I feel like she was also made a victim. Jill used her boyfriend and friends against Tanya so she could keep sleeping with the partners of her two friends. A scumbag through and through. That's what I thought. Poor Tanya. She was a loud person, probably just means she spoke her mind, unlike Jill, because Jill is a deceiver. Maybe she was jealous, but she had reason to be. Multiple partners and sociopathic tendencies. Definitely mental disorder. Unfortunately, sociopaths are difficult to detect if you're convinced they're normal. And why would you not assume normality? It's how people treat each other for the most part. It's just terrible. She took something from you can never get back. 9 years of lost time better spent on someone worthwhile. And you need to notify the other betrayed spouse. It's the decent and ethical thing to do. Definitely no friendship. She already told you what she wants. She's still looking for validation from you. Move on and heal, man. Cut her out of your life, and figure out a way to reach the wife. She needs to know. Stay strong and no contact. You will heal in time. Worldwide comments of the day, then our feelings will disappear. That's funny, you said you had no feelings for her. Sounds like you are spinning a one-sided narrative, and a huge drama queen. This is a weird story. I don't understand why this Paul guy didn't just kick OP out of his place. OP says he was invited to stay with them, but does he have any legal claim? Like, did he sign a lease agreement or at least pays rent to Paul? If not, Paul should have just kicked him out. I may be overthinking it, but this story feels bizarre. OP is such a doormat. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more interesting and relatable Reddit videos.